founder of Bass Pro Shops and now the owner of Cabela's as well, and the former governor of Wyoming, Dave Friedenthal. So they had a unique perspective in addressing it. I think there's a strong bipartisan feeling around it, and I look forward to receiving the final marketing report here in a week or so, and we can actually call it something other than the Blue Ribbon Panel recommendations, something that means something to folks, and begin some outreach on that. And we've certainly had a lot of outreach with our congressional delegates, and it seems to be the concept is broadly supported. There are some challenges with the offset of $1.3 billion from an existing fund and what wouldn't get funded, and that probably remains the largest question at this point.
So Tony, the director's being pretty modest. He's been chairing the. It's my understanding chairing an AWFA committee responsible for kind of leading up and leading the charge on the marketing. Is that correct?
There are two committees that have formed a third, the Teaming with Wildlife Committee and Education, Outreach, and Diversity Committee. I'm the chair of the Education, Outreach, and Diversity Committee that has some responsibilities specific to this marketing effort.
I think there's a lot of responsibility there, and I know you're putting a lot of time into it, and it's appreciated. So,
anything further from the Commission? Hearing none, thank you, Tony. And we'll move on to item 23C, Litigation Report, Deputy Attorney General Harry Ward.
If you may please, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Harry Ward, Deputy Attorney General. I have two brief changes in regards to my litigation report. The first one is going to be regarding the Mark Suey versus Endow. In this matter, a petition for damages for injunctive relief and for reinstatement of the plaintiff's elk bonus points was filed. Plaintiff Mark Suey was the holder of an elk tag for the 2014 hunting season. On the first day of the hunting season, Mr. Suey fell and broke his leg while hiking to his designated hunting area. Mr. Suey went to the hospital, was released, and immediately went to Endow. Mr. Suey asserts that an Endow employee, quote-unquote, promised and assured him that if he returned his tag, he would be entitled to reinstatement of his bonus points. Endow returned his tag and denied his request for bonus points reinstatement pursuant to NAC 502.422. In a nutshell, they were not returned the day before, and there was no other exception. He filed suit in the First Judicial District, Carson City, and the First Judicial District, Carson City, has adopted as part of their local rules participation in the mandatory arbitration program. Both parties have filed with the court to be excluded from the arbitration program, and that has been granted, so now it will proceed as a normal civil matter. So in a nutshell, we're no longer in the arbitration program. We are now going through the typical procedures for a civil matter of discovery, motions, and then a bench trial. The other matter that has changed or would be different from the litigation report is that we received an order granting in part and denying in part our motion to dismiss in the Mark Smith, Donald Moldy case versus Endow and the Commissioners. In this matter, plaintiffs brought action against Endow and the Commissioners for declaratory and injunctive relief, as well as a mandamus action. Plaintiffs assert that the regulation, and this being the trapping regulation, which was recently promulgated, and that's NAC 503.152, plaintiffs assert the regulation is void and unenforceable. Plaintiffs assert that the enabling statute of NRS 503.570 is unconstitutional, as it is a violation of the separation of powers doctrine. Plaintiffs aver that the legislature unlawfully delegated it with lawmaking functions to the Commission to set trap visitation intervals, and thus a violation of the separation of powers doctrine. Plaintiffs filed a writ of mandamus asserting that the Commission is obligated by law to develop plans for wildlife management as it relates to the unintentional trapping of non-targeted animals. This part, the mandamus, was dismissed. However, the court did allow them to proceed on the declaratory judgment aspect, and I will read that statute. Under the Nevada Administrative Procedures Act, NRS 233B.110, declaratory judgment to determine the validity or applicability of a regulation. The validity or applicability of any regulation may be determined in a proceeding for declaratory judgment in the district court in and for Carson City or in and for the county where the plaintiff resides when it is alleged that the regulation or its proposed application interferes with or impairs or threatens to interfere with or impair the legal rights or privileges of the plaintiff. Basically, the court said that the plaintiffs do have standing and that she will then proceed with the declaratory relief. And that's it. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Ward from the commission? Seeing none, thank you, Harry. Moving on to agenda item 27, future commission meetings and commission committee assignments. Secretary Tony Wasley and Chairman Wallace for possible action. The next commission meeting is scheduled for February 10th and 11th, 2017 in Reno, and the commission will review and discuss potential agenda items for that meeting. The commission may change the time and meeting location at this time. The chairman may designate and adjust committee assignments and add or dissolve committees as necessary at this time. Any anticipated committee meetings that may occur prior to the next commission meeting may be discussed. And I'll start out. I think the staff has already told me that we have TMCC booked for the February meeting. Is that correct?
We do. That room is available. We thought we would see how this venue worked and what the feedback was. It may be available as well, but we do have TMCC availability at TMCC, and it's presently booked.
Okay. I feel like if this is available, this has worked out pretty well for us. The teleconference hasn't gone down once, which seems like we have as a problem multiple times over there. And I think if this is available, this would be a good location. I don't know about the rest of my commissioners, but I feel like this has worked out pretty well for us.
We'll check into its availability and let you know.
Okay. And then as far as a list for the next meeting, I don't know, I didn't get anything down at this that was pertinent for the next meeting, specifically from this agenda. There may have been, but I may have missed it as well.
Mr. Chairman, I think there was one regulation that was tabled
Correct. That's the
that
one.
we would probably put on the agenda for next meeting.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a few items that my executive assistant, Suzanne Scorby, wrote down a few things, and I've written down a few things. So the primary of order of business at that meeting is big game seasons and regulations. So certainly that will be the bulk of the business. We also have a couple CGRs. We have the special assistance permit regulation for adoption. We also had the 464, CGR 464 on appeals, where there was some concern over how that item was agendized, that we wanted to move forward. We also had CGR 470, which we wanted to seek some clarification on that 30-day for petitions, and we wanted to get some clarification on that. So those three CGRs. We also had a request by Commissioner Drew to look at some of the contents in Congressman Amadei's land transfer bill. We can put something together there. We'll also be in a new legislative session, so we could have a legislative report on introduced or concept BDRs that could affect the department or affect wildlife. And then we also have had a request for those harvest guidelines to come back again, as well as, I believe, the PIW draft. We don't know if we'll be able to workshop that at that time or not. It'll be pending receipt of language back from LCB. That could be a potential item as well.
Do the commissioners have any other items that they would like to see come forward?
I don't know if you mentioned it in Susan's notes or not, but we were going to request from the department some information in those land transfer areas, like what resources were there in order to frame our letter to the legislatures. And I think it was, I can't remember his name, the gentleman up there who said he could do a rough bullet point list and get it back to us for review. I don't know if that would be something we'd need to look at the next commission meeting.
No, was that Alan or John?
I believe that may have been John, but we can check the minutes. We can check the...
I know him by Mr. Janae. I don't know, but yeah. Oh, there you are.
Okay, anything else from the commissioners on the meeting? I have a couple of items on the committee list, and I'll try and put it together in an email for Suzanne and clear it up a little bit, but I'm looking at putting Commissioner Almberg in the positions on the committees that Chairman or Committee Member Bliss was on, Commissioner Bliss was on, and for the same thing with Commissioner Barnes, where Commissioner Morai was in place at this for now, and then we'll work. I want to talk to you guys a little bit more on some other stuff too, but that's a start, because I kind of got lost there and we didn't get them done, and then Brad had 2 TAC committee meetings on me, and I didn't get that taken care of either. And for the TAC committee, I was going to let's see, that would be where to go. That would be Commissioner Barnes in place of Commissioner Morai, and then I'm going to add Megan Brown in place of Rex Flowers, and I will forward on to you, Suzanne, her contact information. And then for the Administrative Procedures, Regulations, and Policy Committee, I was going to add Commissioner Hubbs to that committee. And I think at this time that's what I've got going for now. And if anybody has any other questions or comments on that, let me know. But we'll start there and see how that works out for us. So, any comments from the commissioners? Okay, this is an action item, so I'm going to take it out to public comment. Public comment in Las Vegas. I don't see anyone down there, but...
No comments in Las Vegas.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment in Carson City. And seeing no public comment in Carson City, I'll bring it back to the commission, and I don't think there's any necessary action on this item. So with no more comments, we'll move on to agenda item 28. Public comment period. Persons wishing to speak are requested to complete a speaker's card and present it to the recording secretary. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. No action can be taken by the commission at this time. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. Public comment in Las Vegas.
No comments in Las Vegas. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And public comment in Carson City. Seeing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the commission, and we stand adjourned.